Coming up next on the Blerd Breakdown, the Thunderbolts rebrand to New Avengers may have worked with a 46% jump from Monday to Tuesday this week. Rumors are circulating as to why Marvel only offered Jeremy Renner half his Hawkeye series salary for Season 2. The Diddy trial has started and jury selection is underway with a few surprises through the week-long process, as well as the judge giving a stern warning to a lawyer associated with Diddy's counsel. All that and more coming up on the Blerd Breakdown, happening right now. What's going on, everybody? I am Winston Marshall, aka the Swaggy Blerd, and this is the Blerd Breakdown, the pop culture show for when you need to know. See, what happened was. Now, if this is your first time here, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when I'm dropping new content, and be sure to throw a like on this video, as well as get in the comments, man. Let me know what you're thinking about all of these stories. Now, you can hear it in my voice. I apologize that I'm this congested. I'm still pretty sick right now. I am recovering as best I can to try and get ready both for a long overdue vacation coming up next week, as well as getting back on set. For those that don't know, I'm actually filming a feature right now, which I'm actually very excited about. But we haven't done this in a while, man. It's been a couple of months. It's mainly been because of gearing up for this project and a lot of other stuff going on. So I wanted to get in here, give you the what's going on with some of the stuff going on in the comic book world. But again, as you know, we have done Diddy or Didn't He for a while now, so I wanted to be sure to let you know now that the trial has started. I'm going to be covering as much of the Diddy trial as I can going forward. So be sure to, again, subscribe here so you are up to date on everything that's happening. But with that going on, let's actually jump into our first story, which is in regards to the Thunderbolts movie. Now, if you didn't hear, Thunderbolts was rebranded as the New Avengers. Now, this is coming from Comic Book Movie that's noted that there has been a 49% jump from Monday to Tuesday. This is Mark Cassidy reporting. After a somewhat disappointing debut and the third lowest first Monday in MCU history, Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts has rebounded, momentarily at least, with a strong Tuesday haul of $7.5 million at the domestic box office. Thanks to a 49% jump from Monday, the anti-hero team-up film now sits at $86.8 million in the U.S. and $172.9 million worldwide on a reported production budget of $180 million before marketing costs. Earlier this week, Marvel began the process of rebranding the movie as the New Avengers. The marketing campaign is believed to have kicked off a little earlier than planned when the opening weekend numbers came in, but it sounds like it was always set to begin shortly after the movie hit the big screen. It felt like if Val is also trying to pull a switcheroo and sell the New Avengers to the world, we could do that too, director Jake Schreier explained to the New York Times in a recent interview. Especially given that the asterisk has been on the movie for a year, hopefully it doesn't feel sweaty. It feels like this was a plan and we built up to it. I mean, I hope it does feel sweaty. Shout out to the king of the sweaties, man, R.I.P. It's very fun. Marvel was open to embracing that, the filmmaker added. It's so interesting in this world, and Kevin Feige talks about it sometimes, where sometimes they wanted things to leak and they don't. I think we all assumed that it would be a bigger part of the conversation already, so it's interesting to see what happens. Marvel Studios hasn't officially changed the movie's title to The New Avengers and is simply spelling out the asterisk as part of the new marketing push. It seems to have paid off, but it's also worth noting that a lot of people may simply have been waiting for Discount Tuesday before going to see it. All right, so let's talk about it, man. Now, if you watch the other show that I do with John Roca, Spill the Tequila, we did talk about the name change earlier this week on Tuesday, and I mentioned how I thought it was a little weird to do it so quickly because it feels like you are undercutting the movie, you're undercutting the surprise, you're undercutting the kind of water cooler talk and things like that. But hearing the two things, one, this is a little lower of an opening that they would have hoped, and two, knowing that they put director's chairs in a room for 5 hours and garnered millions upon millions upon millions of views across multiple platforms. This actually seems to be right up the alley of what you would want to do in order to kind of bring in new eyes and to get the conversation restarted up, especially as you're going into what is essentially your week to own. It is pretty much just this and Sinners before you start getting into the Mission Impossibles, the Final Destinations, all that is coming in the next immediate weeks. So this actually was a pretty smart move, in my opinion, for them to do that. I was hesitant at first, and I said that on Tuesday, but I've since come around, especially hearing that they didn't get the box office that they were hoping for. It's interesting. Because I think this is something I'm going to do. Like I've mentioned that I'm going to be doing something on here called a thread, which is me talking about musings in life that could be tied to pop culture, that could be tied to philosophy, politics, all that kind of stuff. But I think I'm also going to do some more videos that are closer to my video essays about Marvel stuff. And I'm really curious. I want to do a video of what I think Sam Wilson's Avengers team. So for those that have seen Brave New World, minor spoiler for that, it's been since February. You should, if you cared, you would have seen it on streaming by now. It's been on streaming. He has been commissioned to go start his own Avengers team. And at the end of this Thunderbolts movie, Sam does call out the new Avengers and I guess is suing them over the name. So I actually want to try and figure out what I think Sam's Avengers team will be. I'm going to give my top candidates for that. I think it'll be really interesting, and I think you might even get, as part of Doomsday, a little bit of a clashing of the Avengers versus the new Avengers as you're dealing with this Doom controversy that's going to be coming in, obviously, in that film. So all of that seems really interesting to me, but I ultimately, I never had a problem with them changing it to New Avengers. There was always a feeling it was going to be New Avengers or Dark Avengers or something like that, but it was just going to take time. I thought it would have been maybe a little later, maybe at the start of this week for movies, which would have been essentially today, tomorrow, versus doing it on Monday. But again, if you were worried about your numbers, I think it makes sense. I think you do it as soon as you feel like it's appropriate, and Marvel seems to be back on their marketing grind. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you think that the name change is actually what helped with the jump, or you think it was the good word of mouth from most people saying how much they enjoyed the movie, let me know what you think, and let's go on to our next story. Now, there is a rumor circulating as to why Jeremy Renner was actually offered such a low ball on Hawkeye Season 2. This is Josh Wilding reporting from Comic Book Movie. Hawkeye took place over Christmas and proves an effective debut for Haley Steinfeld's Kate Bishop. The series also showcased Jeremy Renner as Clint Barton. The actor has been taking on supporting roles in the MCU since 2011, but soon made it clear that Hawkeye was deserving of the spotlight. The actor recently revealed that when Marvel Studios approached him about Season 2, he was offered only half of what he was paid for the first batch of episodes. Renner understandably declined to reprise the role in that instance, and we've since heard that a new Hawkeye series will likely revolve around Kate. Previously, it was reported that Season 2 would be set in one location similar to The Raid, pitting the Hawkeyes against Clint's brother, Barney Barton, Trickshot. According to both the Insider Jeff Snyder and Puck's Matt Bellini, Disney and Marvel Studios deliberately made Renner a lowball offer for Hawkeye Season 2. According to the former, they were aware that he'd reject being paid half as much money, giving them a reason not to have to make a Season 2 of the show. In his piece, Belloni added, "Nobody tell Renner the show attracted middling viewership and costs would have come down across the board for Season 2. That is, if execs weren't lowballing him in the first place so they could pin the cancellation on him and not them." Well, it does sound like they're theorizing to some extent if Renner had something in his contract that guaranteed a second season, then that could explain why the studio settled on this tactic. It's not unclear what the future holds in store for Hawkeye, as neither Renner nor Steinfeld were announced as part of the Avengers Doomsday cast. Here's a reminder of what Renner said about the Hawkeye Season 2 discussions with Marvel. They asked me to do Season 2 and they offered me half the money. I'm like, well, it's going to take me twice the amount of work for half the amount of money and 8 months of my time essentially to do it for half the amount. I'm like, I'm sorry, why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over? Maybe that's why you want to pay me half of what I made on the first season. This is not Marvel, mind you. This is like just Disney. Not even really Disney. It's just the penny pinchers, the accountants. I told them to fly a kite. I mean, just at the insult offer. So we didn't see eye to eye on it. Sadly, I still love the character. I still have to do it, but I had to defend myself. I didn't ask for any more money, mind you. Just pay me what I made the first season. So it's all disheartening that it didn't happen, but that's fine. I'm happy to let it go because my body's probably thanking me time and time again that I'm not doing it right now, but we'll see. Marvel Studios is believed to have been moving away from bringing movie characters to streaming, instead of deciding to create more distance between its film and TV offerings to avoid making the MCU feel like homework. That might explain why Daredevil Born Again felt largely standalone. In comparison, WandaVision was essential viewing to understand Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, with The Falcon and the Winter Soldier a must-watch prequel to get the most out of Captain America Brave New World. Kevin Feige is spearheading some big changes at Marvel Studios, but here's hoping Renner and Steinfeld get to suit up once again. Hawkeye Season 1 is still streaming on Disney+. Alrighty, so, I hear that, and it's kind of sad, but I'm not entirely surprised, per se, that would be a tactic that they would use. If you make it in a situation of like, we offered Jeremy Renner the role, and he just didn't want to take it. Whose fault is that? That would make sense. Like, my first thought process was, I was like, okay, well, maybe there's a situation where he's only in half the show. Like, not to harp on his injury, but maybe there was something where it really was supposed to be more about Kate than it was about him. And you end up in a scenario where he's in the first half and either gets called off or he gets hurt, and then it's just Kate avenging him. There was a number of reasons why I could see that happening. But if that's the real case, again, this is all rumor and speculation here. I don't love that. I really don't love that. And that would make sense that maybe there was there was more than one season, so they had to find a way to kind of find a way out. But I just think that that's kind of shady. I do think it's smart to take away from the homework element, but I don't love kind of screwing people over to get to that process. I don't know. That's just me. I personally really enjoy the Hawkeye show. I don't think it's anything to necessarily write home about. It's not fantastic. It's not terrible. It's fine. It's a lot of fun to watch every Christmas. I do enjoy that, honestly. It takes a little getting used to because the Kingpin is very different in there. The way that they had Vincent D'Onofrio play the role seemed a little off to me. But overall, I really, really enjoy it, and it is fun to revisit at Christmas. But I only do that because I enjoy watching, we all do the kind of the same Christmas stories over and over again, and then they have a nice little fun element to it. The highlight of it, other than the two of them working together to teach her how to do the trick arrows and stuff like that, and the trick shots, has to be Rogers the Musical for me. That is absolutely hilarious. So that is definitely a bright spot of the show. But let me know what you think. Do you think that this is something Disney would be behind and would kind of play these games to get out of it? Do you think this is just a bunch of rumors circulating by a bunch of people that do rumors? And so, we really have no idea. Let me know what you think. Do you want a second season of Hawkeye? Let me know what you think in the comments. And let's get into one of the main reasons why you're here. Diddy or didn't he? The trial has begun. All right, so the trial for Diddy has indeed started. We are already, I'm a little behind on this because I've been sick. I apologize. But they have been doing the jury selection process the last couple of days. The third day of jury selection was yesterday, the 7th. This is from TMZ reporting, just so you know. Diddy's third day of jury selection featured a couple of people with close ties to the case. This despite the judge's direction to both sides to better vet prospective jurors. Proceedings in Diddy's case are moving forward with more potential jurors called Wednesday as both sides work to put together the 45-person jury pool. And it seems they weren't vetted with a fine-tooth comb. Juror 317 took to the stand, which got Judge Arun Subramanian laughing immediately because he and the man used to work on anti-class action cases together. The potential juror, a lawyer, also admitted the case might be difficult for him to represent his own client over the coming weeks. Both sides had reservations and he was dismissed. Judge Subramanian wasn't laughing when another possible juror came up, said he actually works at MDC Brooklyn, the notorious jail Diddy's been calling home since the fall. While many in the courtroom laughed and the man was quickly dismissed, Judge Subramanian chastised the attorneys on both sides, telling them they needed to do a better job filtering candidates to make this process more efficient. As always, jury selection brought out a character or two as well, like Juror 314, who said he'd been binge-watching the second season of Andor recently and labeled himself as lazy. Despite the prosecution's misgivings, the judge did not exclude him for cause. Juror 220 admitted to reposting a meme about Diddy, and when asked why he didn't disclose it, he responded that he was doom scrolling, the act of scrolling through content on social media without putting much thought into it. He had to explain the term to the judge, but he was ultimately kept in the jury pool. By the way, Diddy's clearly got a routine when he enters the courtroom, wearing similar clothes to what he donned in his first couple of jury selection and hugging nearly every member of the team. The first round of jury selection is done, by the way, and the 45 members of the pool have been chosen, though it should be whittled down to 12 jurors and 6 alternates by Friday. The court won't be in session today, on Thursday. Opening arguments begin Monday, and the defense already knows the first 3 witnesses the prosecution will call. All right. What I don't love about a lot of this, but nothing has truly started yet. What I don't love about a lot of this is the fact, is what we're going to get into with the next story associated with the trial. We have to be really careful here on all points, on both if Diddy is, a guilty person here. We'll find out by the time the trial is over. It'll be determined. You don't want to end up in a scenario where his team has rights for a mistrial because this was too much of a circus. That's why you need to take very seriously who is involved with the jury, how this is handled with the press, all that kind of stuff. We have to be very, very careful about that because for all the fucking assholes who were like, oh, they were a criminal, they don't deserve due process, as far as anybody that came into the country illegally or undocumented. Yes, you do. That is the whole point of America and our Constitution and the court system, is you get due process and you have a specific way the court is supposed to be handled. So this can't be a circus and random jurors that were, hey, I was Diddy's best friend in grade school. Like, that shit can't happen, because then you're giving grounds for somebody that potentially did something wrong to get away. Nobody is saying, if you and this is not to go on a rant on due process, but nobody is saying that if any of these people are actually MS-13 that's come over and then get deported out, that they shouldn't be gone, but they deserve their day in court to have it proven and then them be sent out. And if they're not, that's why we do it. So you're just not getting labeled some bullshit. Same thing here. These are serious allegations against Diddy, and there's a lot of evidence pointing in the direction that he most likely did this. This is all alleged still, right? That's why we're doing the trial. But it needs to be handled properly, because let's say that he did do it. Let's say that he is found guilty, but there's a possibility similar to Cosby. He could be let off of literally a screw up. That is the concern here. So let's jump into this last part of the story and the last part of the show, because this is coming to that. So Mark Geragos, he is a lawyer himself, an attorney himself. He's a part of a podcast, and the judge has told him to be careful about these comments, talking about a 6-pack of white women on the prosecution team. This is also TMZ here. The judge in Diddy's criminal trial is issuing a warning to Mark Geragos over his public comments about the case, and vows he'll be watching and listening weekly to his podcast, Two Angry Men. Judge Arun Subramanian, called Geragos into chambers Tuesday on day 2 of jury selection for a tete-a-tete about the famed attorney referring to federal prosecuting team as a 6-pack of white women during last week's episode of the podcast he co-hosts with TMZ's Harvey Levin. Prosecutors alerted the judge to the comment, which they claimed violated court rules because Geragos appears to be consulting with Diddy's defense team. The rule bars prosecutors and attorneys involved in the trial from making public comments that could influence the jury. During the meeting, Geragos argued the Supreme Court has effectively said defendants and their lawyers have a constitutional right to publicly defend themselves, and therefore, the judge shouldn't gag attorneys connected to Diddy's defense. By the way, the judge squarely asked Geragos if he's advising Diddy in the case. His daughter, Tenny, and Mark Agnafilio are leading the defense. And he would only say he talks to Diddy with great frequency. Anyway, the judge didn't disagree with Geragos' argument, but still reminded him certain comments are so outrageous they wouldn't be tolerated. For instance, a 6-pack of white women. The judge essentially said if Geragos pulls a stunt like that again, he could be cited for contempt. Bottom line, Judge Subramanian warned Mark Geragos about crossing the line on Two Angry Men, saying, I'm going to be watching and listening, all right? You have one more listener for your podcast. TMZ says, thanks, Judge. It's available wherever you get your podcast. All right, so yes, this goes back to what I was talking about. The last thing we need is, if this man is actually guilty, that he gets off on a technicality. That is the absolute last thing that needs to happen with this case. This is too monumental, both how it affects things in pop culture, the sheer number of victims that have potentially been affected one way or the other, what it means for the black community, what it means for hip-hop, what it means for victims of things like this, what it means for anybody involved or has been a victim of sex trafficking. There is so much at stake as to how this plays out. This cannot turn into a zoo. It really can. So I would certainly hope, like, I get, especially on podcasts, people just talk off the cuff. They say whatever the fuck. I understand that there are a lot of white women as part of the prosecution team. You even had Diddy's team arguing, we got another black lawyer. Where your black lawyers at? Like, tried to say that, in the press and stuff like that. And they've constantly tried to paint this as a racism thing. But again, we got to wait and see as the, as the trial plays out and we get to see the evidence full on. But as a lot of the evidence that we had already heard in the arrest and whatnot, don't do that. Let's not make this into that Boondocks episode about the trial of R. Kelly, the mountains of evidence. It's really racism. Like, it's not that right now. Let's not do that shit. All right. So all that being said, let me know what you think about the trial. Let me know what you're thinking about the jury selection and all that kind of stuff. And are you going to be watching? I certainly, again, will be covering as much of this as time will permit me. So you definitely want to come on back. And as I mentioned before, as we are now at the end of the Blerd Breakdown, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, hit a thumbs up on this video, man, and be sure to come on back. I would love to have you here. Love for you to check out all the awesome stuff I have on the channel. I've been doing a lot of streaming where we're just kind of hanging and talking about stuff and kicking in and whatnot, both here and at twitch.tv/theswaggyblerd. You can also find me on Spill the Tequila with John Rocco over on the Outlaw Nation, John Rocco's channel. You can also find me on Capes and Cows with Christian and Coy over on the Christian Harloff channel. I am all over the place, man. And very soon I am currently working on a feature film. You'll be able to see me, screaming my head off. It's a horror film, which is going to be weird for me since, I don't like horror movies. I don't like scary shit at all. So that in and of itself makes this whole thing kind of funny to me. But all that being said, man, thank you so much for watching the show. I really appreciate having you here, and I'll be sure to see y'all in the next one, man. Peace.